Hi there, and welcome back to the Sprinkle Factory. I'm Tony, and today I'm excited to get to share with you how to set up and calibrate your Sprinkle Tray XL. Now, before we get started, you're going to need to download the calibration files. So if you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit pause and then visit the sprinklefactory.com/Sprinkle Tray XL so you can grab those downloads and follow along. Once we have those files ready to go, it's time to head on over to Eddie and check out our extra large sprinkle tray starter kits. Of course, we have our extra large sprinkle tray here, but on top you're going to find we have our extra large silicone mat. Now, as always, our mats have two sides, one being shiny and one being matte. So don't forget that the shiny side always goes down to help stick to the tray and the matte side up to protect your cookies and keep them from moving. And of course, on the back here, we have our magnetic tongue cover with spacer sheet, which has been upgraded for this tray to give it a little extra strength. And this, of course, allows us to magnetically connect with Eddie, but also print in different locations on the tray. Before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and actually remove this silicone mat because we don't need it for this setup process. So I'm going to go ahead and set that aside. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab my magnetic tongue cover because we're going to go ahead and install that now on Eddie. I like to use my finger to hold the liner in place as I get it started here. And then I just give it a little push onto Eddie's original tongue. It's pretty snug as it should be. And then I'm going to use both hands and make sure it's fully seated and even here on the back with the original tongue. And with the tongue cover now installed, we can place our sprinkle tray on Eddie. However, the big question is, where do we place it? So let's dive into that. As I shared before, you can place the XL sprinkle tray in 3 different locations on the tongue cover, which are going to give us these 3 different print zones. This allows us to just get a little more creative with Eddie's original 4.5 by 4.5 print space. To change print locations on the tray, I simply need to release the tray and then slide it to its new location and let it settle in naturally and grab onto the tongue cover. With that said, we've got a whole lot of magnets going on back there, and placing the Sprinkle Tray XL is going to be our biggest learning curve. So something I like to do to make sure I've got it in the right place every time is when I place my tray, I bring it to the edge of the tongue cover so I can still see it and hold it just above. And then I push it back or forward and let it snap into that very last set of magnets. If you run your finger along the bottom of the tray here, you'll find that the tray lip and the tongue cover are lined up perfectly. And same case with the front here. If I run my finger along here, it's a quick way to check that I have everything in the right spot. And now that our sprinkle tray is set up, we can move on to calibrating our Eddie to our sprinkle tray. We're going to do this by printing a series of calibration images and then making adjustments within the Eddie config to our offsets. Our end goal here is for your print to look just like you see it on screen here, with the smaller pink box nice and even across the front line of the sprinkle tray and the smaller horizontal line centered on the tray with no gaps on either side. Although the process is the same, it does look a little different than our original sprinkle tray calibration, but no worries, we're going to walk you through it, so let's get started. To speed things up, I've already opened all 4 of the Sprinkle Tray XL calibration files here in Bartender. They're all set and ready for you to go, so all you need to do is just open the file. As you can see, we have 4 different steps here, so we can print them and adjust our offsets in between. Also, you'll want to open up the Eddie config here, and you'll want to make sure that you're on the alignment tab and that your cookie centering scan is not enabled. And then we can go ahead and get started by going back into Bartender, and let's go ahead and print this first step by selecting File and Print. And we already have the document properties all set up in these files for you, but if you need to pause and make sure yours are the same, go ahead and do so now. I'm going to go ahead and send this to print. Next, we'll head on over to Eddie, where I have placed my sprinkle tray on print zone 1 and hit print. This is a great time to remind you guys that your sprinkle tray should never be on Eddie when he takes a fresh calibration. So if Eddie's been sitting for a while before you started this process or a new print session, I recommend powering him on and off to make sure he's got a fresh calibration before you start. Otherwise, you may find your tray gets knocked off when Eddie brings it all the way back to calibrate. As Eddie finishes up this step 1 print, I can see we've got a little work to do. As I said before, we want this pink line here at the top to be nice and even across the sprinkle tray, and we want the thinner horizontal line to be even from edge to edge without any white gaps on the side, though this one is pretty close. And we'll complete this process by making adjustments in the Eddie config with our offsets using the print on the tray as a guide. So let's head back over to the desktop where we're going to adjust some offsets in the Eddie config here. I'm just going to focus on my vertical to start since my horizontal's pretty close. Looking at my tray here, I need to move my vertical offset about 2 millimeters in the positive direction. Since I'm currently at about 3 millimeters, I'm going to change it to 5 and see if that gets me close enough to where I want to be. Now, after it's saved here, I'm going to head back on over to Bartender and open up my step 2 and go ahead and send that to print just like I did the first one. And if you're wondering what the little circle is on this calibration print, that is just a helpful little guide so you can confirm that the print has changed. Sometimes we're making such small shifts or it's off the tray so far, it's hard to see if our calibration's actually changed. As you can see here, ours definitely moved in the right direction, but I think we can do a little more. I think I can pull that back in the positive direction and get that even just a little more. In person, it's a little bit easier to see. Just visually guessing, it looks like I'm just under a millimeter still that I need to move in the positive direction. So I'm going to add 0.8. Sometimes Eddie adjusts this number a little bit. Yeah, you'll see it added 0.84 instead, but that's fine. It's going to be close enough. So let's go ahead and print this step 3 and see if that brings us to the right spot on our tray. If you feel comfortable adjusting both your horizontal and your vertical at the same time, go ahead and do so. It will speed up the process, but to keep things simpler here, I've done one at a time. Now I can already tell that this looks pretty good. This blueprint is really nice and even with the front of the tray. And I think I can go ahead and make a very small adjustment though to the horizontal. You can see it a little here with the blue on the right side. There's a little bit of white left on the tray. So let's go ahead and make that adjustment and print one more time. This time, however, for the horizontal, I need to adjust it in the negative. So I'm going to adjust it by 0.8 again. It's not quite a millimeter. So I'm going to put in negative 0.8, excuse me, and you'll see that the config changed it just slightly to 0.76, which is going to be close enough. That's fine. So we're going to go ahead and then print that final step 4, which is the purple. So we'll go to File and Print here and do our last final print and see if that works for the horizontal. I'm feeling pretty confident about our calibration of this process. If you feel that you still have more adjustments to do, feel free to rinse off and dry your tray at this point and start back over with step 1 so you can get a better feel for the calibration process. Now, in person here, this looks pretty good. Our vertical, as we already knew, is right across the front of the tray, and we've gotten rid of that gap here on the right side with this last print. And I'm going to go ahead and rinse off my sprinkle tray and print the last step once more, just so I can make sure that it's exactly where I want it and it's nice and clear. Once our Eddie print head is calibrated to our sprinkle tray XL, we can start to have some fun with those 3 different print zones. Be sure to check out our different video tutorials for ideas on how you can use your XL tray. Until next time.